Good morning. It is Thursday, March 20th, 2025. March Madness starts today. It's just before noon on the East Coast or just before 9 a.m. on the left coast. I want to talk about two news releases today. There's a lot of news releases out there across junior mining that we could talk about, but I chose two because I find these to be particularly interesting. And the companies both start with the letter A. So it's Aurion Resources and Aztec Minerals, one in Finland, one in Arizona and Mexico. So we start with the Aurion News AU on the TSX venture. You can see the chart. A nice gentle uptrend since last November in AU shares. So they announced a earn-in agreement with KoBold Metals for a portion of the Risti property in the central Lapland greenstone belt of Finland. So who is KoBold Metals? They're not a publicly traded company, but KoBold Metals is a startup, essentially, that's backed by Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. And actually, at the end of last year, KoBold raised $537 million US dollars, the real greenbacks, in a Series C funding round that valued the company at $3 billion. Now, we can, those in the mining industry can look at that $3 billion price tag and the assets this company has and make their own assessments. For a public company, 3 billion US is a very big valuation in the mining sector, but it's backed by two mega billionaires, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, and the company has some extremely smart people involved. So super premium valuation. So let's look at this news release from Aurion that came out yesterday morning. So critical minerals exploration agreement. So one of the keys of this is that Aurion retains full ownership rights over areas of the project area where the predominant mineral in a discovery is gold or silver. That's very key wording, the predominant mineral. So in this area of the Risti property, KoBold and Aurion could find nickel and copper and lead and zinc or whatever. But if the predominant mineral, in terms of the economic value of the ore body, is gold or silver, then Aurion just keeps it all. So KoBold pays for the exploration, but Aurion keeps it all. So really, KoBold only can really earn the 75% interest of the maximum that they can earn in if the predominant mineral is something other than gold or silver. And clearly they're looking for critical minerals like copper, like nickel, cobalt, what have you. I think we could even call platinum one. I mean, there's so many metals that are critical these days. But the terms of the agreement are interesting because KoBold can earn up to 75% by incurring US $12 million in exploration expenditures on or before the 5th anniversary date. So by March 2030, they have to spend US $12 million to get that 75% interest in this property. They need to spend US 1 million within the first 18 months. So they have until next September to spend that first million and then give them the ability to spend another 11 million by March 2030 to earn that 75%. Once the full 12 million has been spent by March 2030, then a new JV will be established, KoBold at 75% and Aurion at 25%. So then Aurion would need to contribute its 1/4 of expenditures to maintain its pro rata at 25% from that point forward. But Aurion can choose to be diluted down. If they get diluted down below 10%, then the ownership in this portion of the Risti property gets converted to a 2% net smelter returns royalty, an NSR. So that's very clever because Aurion can just say, well, this is not our cup of tea, but we'll take a 2% royalty on this portion of the Risti project area. So that's a very interesting. You can read the comments from Orion's CEO. And I see this as a win-win between the two companies, quite frankly. This is a win-win agreement. I think it's very positive for Orion to get exposure through KoBold, because clearly KoBold has a different swath of investors that are following it. More likely to be more of the tech investor type, the Silicon Valley type, VC types who don't necessarily do venture capital in the resource space, right? They do venture capital in other areas. They're probably a big portion of the shareholder base at KoBold. And then obviously Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, to be able to get on their radar is absolutely priceless. And actually, so because KoBold is private, there's no public way to really get exposure to KoBold. So through this earn-in agreement with Orion, well, public market investors can get a little exposure to KoBold through AU on the TSX-V. And so why is KoBold so interested in Finland? Well, it's the Sakatti mine, which is located just 12 kilometers from Risti. The Sakatti, deposit is an extremely high-grade polymetallic deposit with copper, nickel, cobalt, platinum, palladium, gold, and silver. The grades at Sakatti are above 2%, in some areas above 3% copper, 2% nickel, 2+ grams per ton PGEs in gold. So you have a wide suite of valuable metals that is extremely high grade. That makes Sakatti, which is owned by Anglo American, a very valuable, deposit, a very valuable ore body for Anglo American and also for the country of Finland. So KoBold is looking to make a discovery of another Sakatti, obviously, or something maybe even half as good, would be fantastic, right? So it's no accident that they were looking here, and they want this ground to the eastern side of the Risti property. Okay. Haywood has some comments on this news. What's going on here? Risti exploration getting a boost from KoBold. Haywood has a $1 price target on Orion shares, and they note that Orion is drilling with one rig at Risti currently, and obviously they're drilling for gold, with more results expected from that drilling in the next few weeks. And obviously there's some things going on in the background with Rupert. Not exactly sure what stage that is at, but clearly there is some tension there in Finland. Rupert announced a $45 million bought deal financing at $4.50 a share the day after their share price rose as high as $4.99, and now it's trading under the deal price, the $4.50 deal price. It's trading at $4.40. So very interesting. Finland is a place to definitely keep an eye on, and I like this earn-in agreement between Orion and KoBold. I think it's a win-win for both parties and a good deal for Orion shareholders. So let's get rid of that, and we'll get rid of this, and we'll move to Southern Arizona and Aztec Minerals, AZT on the TSX-V. So Aztec, I believe it was late 2020 or early 2021, they did a AMT survey, basically measuring the conductivity of the rocks that are underneath their Tombstone project in Cochise County, Arizona. And there's a couple of prominent conductors showed up in this survey, and the location of them, the stratigraphic sequence that the conductivity anomalies appeared to be located in, made it super interesting to me. And I've wanted them to drill these deep CRD targets for the last 4 years, and And here we get this news release this morning. Aztec identifies high priority CRD targets at Tombstone Project in Arizona. Pretty comprehensive and detailed news from Aztec. You can read it yourself, but I want to focus on the main takeaway. So first of all, the Tombstone Project. Well, first of all, the history of Tombstone. The town of Tombstone was founded in the late 1870s due to a silver discovery that was made right here, right? And actually, this Tombstone mine was one of the richest gold and silver mines, primarily silver. It was known for silver in the US for many decades, right? And actually, you can read and also watch a series on Netflix about Wyatt Earp and the Arizona cowboy wars of the early 1880s. This silver that came from this mine was very important to the United States and the economic wealth of the country for many years. So it has a great deal of history. But the fact is, there was mining here for over 50 years, and they mined this open pit called the Contention Open Pit. But this is a very rich, system, gold and silver system with a lot of evidence of the potential for CRD, porphyry deposits in the area. And Aztec has been drilling it since 2020. And let's just take a look at, they have a slide on the drill results here. So this is just basically drilling under the contention pit there in Tombstone, and these are the results since 2020. A lot of it has been RC drilling. They did an RC hole this year, a pre-caller hole 20 last year, hole 2416, and that intersected 106.4 meters of 1.5 grams per ton gold equivalent. So basically 2.5 ounces of silver and almost a gram of gold over more than 100 meters in hole 2416. So let's look at where that hole was drilled. And you can see here's basically the main zone of their drilling that they've focused on the last several years. And they stepped down here to the southern extension of the contention pit area, and they drilled this hole 2416. They drilled it to a little bit beyond 250 meters depth, and they hit that nice interval. I mean, over 100 meters of nearly 2 grams per ton gold equivalent in oxides. That's fantastic. And this was a pre-caller. So the intention here is now in 2025 to go back in there and extend that hole with a core rig to 600 or 700 meters depth to test this AMT anomaly, this conductivity anomaly that is interpreted to potentially be a CRD ore body at depth, right? And basically, the reason why this is so interesting, we get these geophysical anomalies in mining all the time. But you need to put the clues together to really understand the significance of this and the potential of this coming deeper CRD drill program. The structural complex that's underlying Tombstone is the same Paleozoic limestone sequence that hosts the Taylor CRD zinc silver lead deposit that South 32 owns 65 kilometers west of Tombstone, right? That's the Taylor CRD system, right? And also Bisbee, right? Which is a CRD and skarn, deposit, porphyry and CRD skarn deposit that's to the south of Tombstone. You can literally just drive from Tombstone south and you run right into the Bisbee mine, which is now closed. So it's in the right area of the world, this area of southern Arizona. It has the right limestone sequence, Paleozoic, so more than 250 million years old. And historic drilling by Santa Fe back in the 80s to over 700 meters depth actually drilled into CRD mantos that had pretty high grade silver, lead, zinc. I mean, there was one hole they drilled where they hit almost 10% zinc equivalent in this, limestone target, host rocks, right? So it wasn't followed up on, and now Aztec is going to follow up on, and also, so you know, it's important to look at the area and the setting, right? And so there's several manganese silver rich mines around Tombstone, and that's indicative of being more distal to a CRD deposit, right? So you have the right setting, you have the evidence at surface that you're in the right setting, you're drilling under a deposit, right? The Tombstone, open pit deposit with pretty high grades gold and silver in oxides near surface. You had all these sniffs of silver, lead, zinc at depth, and you have this large AMT anomaly, moderate to strong conductor that's 600, 700, 800 meters uh, right below the contention open pit, right? And yeah, just add it all up. And I believe it doesn't say in this news release when these holes are going to be drilled, but I believe probably around June timeframe, Aztec will drill 2 or 3 deep CRD holes to test these high priority targets that have just been waiting to be tested. So I'll leave you, the viewer, to dig into this. I think this section map is pretty interesting because it shows this hole 2416 that was drilled last year, and you can see the grades of the drilling, and you can see the conductivity anomaly below it, right? So this is, if the surface is right here, probably going to drill 600 to 700 meters deep into this to test the conductivity, anomaly that's interpreted to be in the Paleozoic limestone sequence. And actually, the interpretation is that the conductor, the moderate to strong conductor, is exactly at the right depth to intersect the Paleozoic limestone sequence that's under the Tombstone deposit. So that is it. Very interesting news from Aurion and Aztec. I'm a shareholder of both. Please do your own due diligence. Thanks for watching this video, and have a powerful day.